So, you know what we're really talking about here? I mean, this really has nothing to do with religion, with Islam, with Christianity, with any of that kind of thing. What this really has to do with is something called Obama Derangement Syndrome, which really should be in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the American Psychiatric Association, the DSM. We're up to what, DSM-5 now, I think? Maybe they should come out with 5R revised and add Obama Derangement Syndrome to it. The only thing is that conditions typically only make their way into the DSM when there's a pharmaceutical to deal with them, because it's the psychiatry rather than the psychology profession. In psychiatry, you see a psychiatrist to get pills. You see a psychologist to get therapy, generally speaking. I mean, there are obvious exceptions to both, but that's pretty much the case. And what we're looking at here is a mental illness. It's a mental illness born out of racism, out of hysteria, and out of an enormous amount of money coming from a bunch of right-wing billionaires who it's not that they don't like Obama. It's that they don't like the government regulating them or taxing them. And Obama happens to be the guy in the White House. And they know that there's a bunch of white racists out there. So, hey, let's exploit those idiots. You have the headline on Drudge: "Terrible deeds in the name of Christ," and a picture of Obama with a big smile on his face. Right. In fact, here's the story. Conservative radio host Obama was acting like a secret Muslim at prayer breakfast on the February 6th edition of the Mike Gallagher Show. Conservative radio host and Fox News contributor Mike Gallagher suggested that Obama's remarks at the National Prayer Breakfast were proof that the president had a mental breakdown. Gallagher went on to claim that he doesn't believe it to be true, but Obama sure acts like he's a secret Muslim when he makes such statements. You get what's going on here. President Obama, by not attaching the word Muslim to the terrorists, is denying them what they crave. Mike Gallagher, Rush Limbaugh, Joe Scar, Steve Ducey, Gretchen Carlson, Laura Ingraham, all of them want to give these terrorists what they want. They want to give them credibility. They want to suggest that these terrorists are somehow representing Islam. And the vast majority of Muslims around the world, I mean, the vast majority of Muslims around are horrified by this. They're just like anybody else. They don't want to get through the day, have their job. And by the way, have you noticed that all of this happens to be happening in or near countries that we broke? If George W. Bush had not decided that he had to have two little wars in order to get reelected in 2004, he needed the little wars in 2003 to set up the election, and 2002, and so he invades Afghanistan and then he invades Iraq. If George W. Bush had not done that, it's arguable that there would be no ISIL. Now, yeah, I know you could say, are creating other failed states like Libya or, trying to take down Assad in Syria. Well, yeah, but none of that would have happened if we hadn't taken down Iraq. I mean, if you want to point to the source, what brought about these terrorists, it's the unleashing. It's the destruction of government which kept people from killing each other, the Sunnis and Shia by and large. It's the power of government, the power of Saddam Hussein's government, the power of, you might not like their governments or agree with their governments, but it was the power of the Iraqi government, the power of the Taliban in Afghanistan that was preventing a lot of violence based in ancient tribal and religious disputes. So if you want to call these terrorists, you could call them Bush-created terrorists, Republican-created terrorists, neocon-created terrorists. I mean, that's more accurate than calling them Muslim terrorists. Because once again, what they're doing is not, arguably, is not part of Islam. Now you say, oh, wait a minute, I can find a verse in the Quran that says, you should, kill other people if they don't go along with you. Well, yeah, I can find those verses in the Bible. There's pretty much an entire book devoted to it. Joshua, who, God said, go to this town and kill everybody. Then go to this town and kill everybody. You read it. Read the book of Joshua and tell me that the God that Joshua was listening to isn't a terrorist, or that Joshua wasn't. But what does that have to do with... Anyhow, my point, what does that have to do with conservatives wanting the President of the United States to give and establish credibility for terrorists in the Middle East and around the world? Why do these conservatives want to improve the standing, the credibility of these folks? The two reasons that I can come up with are, one, it's a simple, easy bumper sticker thing that you can use to bash the president, which conservatives are all about, right? They hate the guy. But the second possibility is that by taking a few thousand or tens of thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of hardcore right-wing terrorists in the Middle East and calling them Muslim, what the right-wingers are doing are saying, no, it's not 10,000. Well, back when it was just, bin Laden in Afghanistan, it was fewer than 5,000. Right? It was just a handful of people. But now it's grown thanks to George W. Bush's policy. But they get to say, well, no, it's not 10,000 or 100,000 people that we have to worry about. The ISIS, a couple 100,000 at the most. It's all of Islam. It's over 1 billion people. So we can really get justified in being terrified. And we can look around. Oh, look at all those Muslims in Detroit, in Dearborn. Oh my God! And look at the Muslims in New York City, and look at them. And anywhere there's a mosque or a Muslim community, we are justifying not just hatred, but hatred fueled by fear, blind fear. That's what these right wingers are selling.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
And by promoting that fear, they are harming the United States of America. These are not patriots, these right-wingers. They're shills.